Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining Samba TV's State of Viewership Webinar. I'm Cole Strain, VP of Measurement Products here at Samba TV, where I build omni-screen measurement products and generally help advance the industry through both research and analytics.
And I'm Rebecca Fine, Associate Director of Marketing Insights and Content at Samba, where I use our first-party viewership data to uncover trends and share insights that help advertisers to better understand their audiences.
Today, we're going to share some of the top TV viewership trends that we recently uncovered after analyzing 24 billion hours of linear and streaming data from the US from Q2 of this year. That is a lot of TV. We'll also be sharing tips for advertisers on how to leverage these insights to maximize ROI and minimize waste during an economic downturn. The trends we'll be presenting are also featured in our latest State of Viewership webinar, or our latest State of Viewership report, which is available now on our website, and we'll also follow up with everyone with a link so that you can download the report directly. Before we dive in, just a couple of things to know. Number one, we welcome your questions. Please submit through the Zoom Q&A feature at any time. We've saved a few minutes to do a bit of live Q&A at the end. And then number two, there will be live polling. This is a really fun and interactive part of the live session. You'll see a polling question pop up from a prompt with Zoom. There'll be multiple choices. Choose the one you like the most. You don't have to participate, but you will miss out on the fun. All right, all this housekeeping aside, let's go ahead and get started. Let's do a quick introduction on Samba TV, where we get our data and how we're able to get these insights. So here at Samba, we gather viewership data through our proprietary automatic content recognition, or ACR, technology. We collect viewership from 46 million global smart TV devices, and we analyze all of the viewership that's taking place on the screen. All Samba households are opted in, and regardless of what they're watching, whether it's sports on traditional linear or streaming a Disney Plus series on demand, our ACR technology understands what content is being viewed and what ads the household is being exposed to. It's important to note that Samba TV is the only independent TV ACR company, meaning we're not owned by any one single TV brand. Instead, we partner with over 20 brands globally. This brand diversity is extremely important because it helps ensure that our data captures a broad range of behaviors as well as viewers. This means we capture data from a wide range of brands and that vary between feature sets, price points, and availability. To ensure that all of the insights and data that we share are fully representative of the viewing population, we've actually curated our TV footprint into a 3 million household representative research panel that is balanced geographically as well as demographically. So this includes age, income, gender, and ethnicity. Our pure ACR signal is a great reflection in the shifts of modern TV viewership. It fully captures that household transition from primarily linear to primarily streaming viewership and gives us the cleanest read as we watch these households migrate from one form of viewership to the other. All right, you have some familiarity with Samba and how we get our data. Let's get into the insights. Take it away, Becca.
Thank you, Cole. So to start out, we're going to look at some of the overarching trends that we're seeing in the TV landscape. So the graph on the left here is showing average daily reach in the US between Q2 2021 and now. And the graph on the right is showing the total linear minutes watched during that time period. Right off the bat, one of our main takeaways was that linear minutes watched were the lowest that they've been in the last year. Not sure just how much of that was due to me personally not standing for 2 bachelorettes this season, but I have to imagine I wasn't alone. We also saw that average daily reach dropped slightly year over year, with about 56 million households watching linear each day. That translates to roughly half the population, which begs the question of how to reach those other half of viewers that aren't watching linear as regularly. And all of this falls in sharp contrast, by the way, to OTT consumption, with both AVOD and SVOD growing by about 2% quarter over quarter. So why do we think this is happening? Well, some of the decline in linear viewership can be attributed to different habits among different age groups, with older generations remaining tied to linear and younger viewers kind of switching over to OTT. This graph here shows that viewers above the age of 65 watch 20% more linear TV than the average US household, while millennials and Gen Z both under-index compared to the average household. All told, we found that households under the age of 35 watch 23% less linear TV per week than households over the age of 35. And now it is time for our first polling question here. It's one of my favorite parts of these webinars, so please respond to the prompt in Zoom. And the question is, in Q2, which live TV tentpole had the highest household reach? Was it the Grammys, March Madness Final Four, the Masters Golf Tournament Final Round, or the Bachelorette Season 19 premiere? All right, let's get some answers in here, see what the people think. All right, people seem to think it was B, March Madness, but the answer is actually C, the Masters Golf Tournament Final Round. So not the Bachelorette. But let's also take a look at some of the other top events from the quarter. So we all knew sports were important for linear, but until this quarter's data, I didn't personally know just how important. Throughout Q2, we saw that 40 of the 50 most watched linear programs were sports. On the right there, we showed the top 5 reaching programs, and as you can see, only 4 of them drove reach over 10 million households. As we saw, the top event was the Masters Final Round, followed by March Madness, and then the NBA Finals. It's pretty crazy how sports really dominate the linear space so heavily, and it will be really interesting to see what happens with many live sports moving their coverage to streamers, like Amazon's Thursday Night Football, for example. So with the NBA making up 3 of the 5 highest reaching events of the quarter, we also wanted to take a closer look at how those games were tracking. And what we found was that this year's NBA Finals far surpassed the 2020 or 2021 finals. I wasn't entirely surprised to see those increases from 2020, since that was the year where they were played in the NBA bubble in Disney World. But those increases from 2021 were also pretty substantial. And as expected, given that Boston and San Francisco were playing in the games, we saw those 2 DMAs tune in at a much higher rate than last year, along with some other nearby cities like Sacramento and then even New York a little bit further down there. Switching over to streaming trends, we also took a look at the percentage of streaming viewers that only watched 1 program per platform. So across each of the services listed here, we saw a pretty substantial number of viewers only tune in to 1 program among the top 50. So on HBO Max, for example, 62% of households that watched any of the top 50 programs only watched 1 of those programs. And interestingly, it was most likely to be Sesame Street, which actually removed about 200 episodes recently, which I know caused a lot of turmoil in Cole's household, per his child, not Cole. And then Apple TV and Hulu were similarly in that kind of 55 to 60% range. And then we saw Disney Plus and Netflix fare a bit better at about 1/3 of their viewers only watching 1 program. This is all a bit of a cautionary tale for streamers against people who subscribe to a service just to watch 1 program, maybe Sesame Street, and then are likely to cancel that subscription after they're done. All right, over to you, Cole, to take a look at some streaming shows.
Absolutely. I will mention that though heartbroken about Sesame Street, we maintained our HBO subscription. So we are heartbroken. All right, let's talk about my favorite way to watch, streaming. Q2 streaming was largely dominated by Netflix. They drew huge viewership numbers for their top shows, but leading the way above and beyond was Stranger Things Season 4. It drew 2.9 million households of US viewership in the first 4 days, leading by a significant margin over the other direct streaming top shows such as Bridgerton, Obi-Wan, and Moon Knight. Now, as this graph moves to include the 15-day viewership numbers, we just see the Stranger Things story. It just grows, drawing 4.6 million households who watched that first episode in the first 15 days, That's 38% higher viewership than the next most watched series on the list, Bridgerton. As we move down the list, we actually see that new Netflix series, The Lincoln Lawyer, really closed the gap on Moon Knight in that first 15-day period versus the first 4, and Ultimatum more than doubled its 4-day viewership in the first 15. I just wanted to remind everyone that Netflix and Disney Plus have both announced ad-supported tiers, and this feels like a really exciting advertising opportunity, just given the numbers these platforms are posting around their premiere content. So the premiere, I wanted to talk about this for just a minute. Is it still a relevant milestone? In a world where everything is on demand, why would we watch it the moment it comes out? Couldn't we just wait? Well, it turns out that early viewership numbers end up being very important when you consider the overall viewership in the first few months of the show. I'd really recommend folks focus on the first 15 days rather than the first 4. So over a first 50 days of viewership behavior from Q2, by the 15th day, you're typically going to see 70 to 80% of the unique households have tried the show. The first 4 days have some really wild swings. Look at The Lincoln Lawyer. Viewership really accelerated between day 4 and day 15. However, by the 30th day, things have stabilized. Each of these shows had more than 85% of their viewership behavior occur in the first 30. And knowing that there's this point of diminishing returns in new viewership, it really leads to the importance of effective promotion, both before the premiere as well as during the first 15 days. Capture that audience attention immediately before any of this other amazingly compelling content is able to draw eyes away. All right, so we talked about the first 15, we talked about the first 4, we talked about top streaming. Let's talk about binging. So this poll is all focused on binge behavior. What percentage of Stranger Things season 4 viewers binge the whole of volume 1 within the first 5 days? Is it 16, 23, 36, or 41% of households binge the whole of volume 1 in the first 5 days? Let's just give a few moments for all the votes to come in. All right, that should do it. Wow, what an even split. 41% was the correct answer, but 36 and 23, very strong crowd split here. 41 was the correct answer. So the Netflix model of releasing the full season at once has really allowed us to watch our favorite shows in as aggressive a fashion as our schedules will allow. Binging full seasons in under 5 days is common, it's normal. And now that we've released the stat, I can proudly share with everyone how I spent my long weekend. This binging streaming series, that is. On the left, you can actually see all of our returning shows. So the binge release model combined with an established fan base led to really high consumption of those first 5 days. 40% households binged the full season on all 3 of these shows. Upload season 2, Russian Doll season 2 saw the highest rates, and Stranger Things paired a high rate with this very high viewership number altogether. On the right, you see the first season premieres. These came in a touch lower on the binge-o-meter, but still had hundreds of thousands of households telling Netflix, yes, we are still in fact watching. Go ahead and play me that 4th episode. All right, enough on binging. Let's go over to Becca and we'll talk about ads.
Sounds good. So in the face of economic uncertainty, rising inflation, we did see that advertisers adjusted their strategies this quarter. So let's take a look to see some of the trends. So throughout the quarter, 95% of linear impressions were served to just 55% of TV viewers, those heavy and medium viewers who maintain a relatively high level of linear consumption. In breaking that down from a frequency standpoint, we saw that those top 55% of viewers saw an average of 103 linear ads per day. That all means that nearly half of all viewers saw only 5% of ads, and on average, only 7 ads per day. So the big takeaway here is that linear ads are increasingly unable to reach the broad public, and particularly younger households who often qualify as these light TV viewers. And now for another polling question here, which advertiser do you think drove the highest number of linear ad impressions in Q2? Was it Progressive, Domino's, T-Mobile, or Capital One? Give it a second, see what people think. All right, what do the people think? All right, I see why you would think it would be progressive, a lot of ads, but the answer is actually B, Domino's. They didn't only out pizza the Hut this quarter, but they also out pizzaed every other brand. So taking a look at the other brands that serve the highest volume of impressions, probably see some familiar faces there. What we thought was particularly interesting, though, was how insurance and cost-saving brands like Walmart were pretty high on the leaderboard this quarter, as many consumers are looking to cut costs given inflation and general concerns about the economy. In any case, with the R word, recession, on everyone's mind, we were curious how financial advertisers kind of changed their strategies in Q2. So looking at the top 10 financial advertisers of the quarter, we saw that 7 actually heavied up impressions compared with last year, with Upgrade, Bank of America, and Merrill driving increases over 1,000% year over year. Each of those top 10 advertisers made up about 2 to 5% of total financial impressions, with over 600 other brands driving that remaining 69% of impressions. All right, over to you, Cole, for a look at some consumer snapshots.
Absolutely. As part of the data we're able to see at Samba, we have this comprehensive and excellent demographic profile information. This includes age, income, and ethnicity, and it all gets mapped back to the US Census data to ensure that we're providing the strongest audience representation and helping people reach their target audiences. So let's see how the TV viewing experience and the viewing habits varied for some of these key demographic groups. Starting with millennials, there was a lot of split with the millennial viewership behavior in this quarter. Streaming time was split largely across 3 platforms: Hulu, Netflix, as well as Disney Plus, each taking a top spot for over-indexing shows. The Kardashians made a pretty big move, moving from linear television to Hulu in April, and much of their loyal fan base followed. This catapulted the reality program into the highest indexing program for the millennial audience for the quarter. This shift mirrors the broader trend of households under age 35, watching less linear TV than the US household and instead turning to OTT platforms to consume their entertainment. However, sports are still the major draw. Playoff sporting events such as the Stanley Cup and the NBA playoffs led the top 2 spots for the millennial household. All right, moving on to our next polling question. Which type of linear program indexed highest for Hispanic households in Q2? Was this news, live sports, award shows, or was it scripted series? We let the votes come in. All right, let's take a look and see how this came across. Sports was the fan favorite, and if you've been watching this State of Viewership or any of our past State of Viewerships, that would be the obvious answer, but in this case, it's actually news. Compared to the average US household, Hispanic households over-indexed on news. So let's take a look at the other viewership behaviors from this demo. On streaming, Disney Plus captured the Hispanic audience with its signature Marvel programs, WandaVision still having an excellent runway, as well as Moon Knight, and followed by Netflix's Stranger Things, of course, because who wasn't watching Stranger Things during Q2? Spanish language programming really was dominated in Hispanic news. I'm sorry, let me try again. Spanish language news programming really dominated linear for this demographic. And brands like Modelo and Volkswagen ranked amongst the highest for over-indexing advertisers. I did really want to call out the impression frequencies for the heavy TV viewers, though. It was quite a bit lower than the national average, nearly 20 impressions fewer per day than the average viewership household. Pretty different behavior from this demographic. All right, We've shared these insights, and what we wanted to be able to do is offer a little bit of an opportunity to show how you could apply these in practice, how an advertiser could take advantage of these insights, as well as help migrate or mitigate impacts from an upcoming economic downturn. So 3 tips that we have to share with you today. The first is don't go dark. Slashing advertising during an economic downturn can hurt sales, both during as well as long after the recession is over. There's a significant amount of research on this topic from leading short trade organizations as well as industry groups. The Advertising Research Foundation has put out some excellent studies. Take a moment and review, and don't go dark. Next is minimize waste by leveraging data. You've seen several times throughout this presentation today that there's a very large disparity in linear viewership. When it comes to top TV reviewers receive over 100 ads per day, and light TV viewers are receiving fewer than 10. As you're considering how to best leverage your digital budgets, make sure that you're reaching those underexposed households, that less than 10 population. And data is the best way to do this. Ensure that you're getting the most out of your media budget and not wasting impressions on those households that have already been overexposed. And finally, stay flexible. As we continue to see these viewership behaviors change quarter over quarter, there's different content, there's different platforms, and the draw is continuously moving. It's important that you evolve your media and adapt to these shifts and reach your consumers where they are. So make sure you're partnering with someone that can offer you more flexibility and scale as part of the strategy. Samba has actually been putting together strategies and tactics to help advertisers achieve this directly. So I'm going to kick it over to Becca to talk to you a bit about Samba TV Advantage.
Yeah, so we recently introduced Samba TV Advantage for brands and for agencies to be able to tap into Samba TV data anywhere across the media ecosystem via Samba Direct on third-party inventory or sold by third-party sales teams. This allows advertisers to use our targeting segments with publishers to employ a unified incremental reach strategy across the entirety of their media investment and leverage one source of data really however they prefer. They can then marry that targeting strategy with our cross-vendor true reach and frequency report to understand which publishers are most effective at delivering incremental reach for their brand. So with Samba TV Advantage, advertisers can, first of all, engage incremental households across all channels, all platforms, and all devices. They can deploy audiences across CTV, social, audio, native, and everything in between. Increase reach and value above and beyond the CTV walled gardens, and finally, optimize performance and ROI across a wider set of channels, partners, and platforms. Also want to make it clear that it's not only advertisers that are benefiting from Samba TV Advantage, publishers are too. So we are helping publishers to enrich their data sets, maximize incremental reach and revenue, and really create more targeted segments and campaigns. If you're interested in learning more about Samba TV Advantage, we would love to hear from you, so please reach out. And that concludes today's presentation. We do have a couple minutes left for questions, so we will start answering those live. Don't worry if we don't get to your question today. Our team will be sure to follow up and make sure that we get you some answers. So let's take a look at the first question here. I can take the first one, Cole.
Sure.
Is Samba TV still releasing viewership reports for Europe and Australia? Great news. Yes, we are. So in addition to this kind of US report that this webinar is based off of, we created separate reports this quarter for Australia and for the UK and Germany. So all 3 reports are live on our website now. You can download them and please do so. Please peruse.
Awesome. Let me jump on this next one. This is a question about our true reach and frequency research. Sure, absolutely. So TRF, I think we mentioned this earlier in the report. This is our flagship audience measurement product. It's really designed to show household level reach and frequency across linear, CTV, and digital. This is all deduplicated at the household level. The tool is actually really designed around ads, but all of the insights that you're seeing here today utilize the same core data as well as the same methodologies. So this is the tried and true research that we have in our products as well as in our insights.
All right. One more here. When is your next tentpole report coming out? So glad we got this question because we are working on a new report right now. It's going to be a little bit different, focused on consumer holiday shopping trends. So keep an eye out for that in the coming weeks. We're working on it now, and also there will be another webinar surrounding that report too. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss it by even 1 second, make sure you're signed up for our newsletter. We'll be sure to send updates via that newsletter. And again, you can access that on our website if you want to sign up.
All right, folks, that actually covers all the questions that we received, which is okay. I totally get not wanting to ask questions in this sort of forum, or maybe your question is too complex to be answered in 2 minutes on a live webinar. That's fine. If you think of questions later, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to discuss more. Thanks again. Thank you all so much for tuning into our webinar today. We hope you found it insightful, as well as leverage some of the tips for optimizing your advertising strategy. If you have further questions, actually, this just came up in the Q&A, so this is perfect. Reach out to us. You can reach out to us through the website. I believe you will also receive a follow-up link from us that includes the State of Viewership full report, which you're able to download, so you should be able to reach us from that as well. The State of Webinar report is also available on the website, so if you cannot wait, you can get it there. And that's it for today. Thank you all so much, and have a happy Thursday.